Sorry guys if you've been tuned in, and we're gonna try it all again. Rosie, I'm gonna blame you for not being... She's not even here and I'm blaming her. I'm so sorry, Rosie, I'm joking, I love you dearly. Okay, here we go. What's up guys, this is Ed Gregory from photosincolor.com and welcome to another live show. This week the theme is bokeh. Here we go. Okay, so after a little bit of a technical hitch, we are all the way back and we are live. Remember, this is the show where you can upload your photographs for each week's challenge, and I will be taking a look, reviewing them, telling you my thoughts and my critiques, so that you can hopefully improve by getting inside my head and I can tell you what I think. So remember, you can vote on what next week's theme is going to be. Now, the big thing about the challenge show is this. I want you guys to actually challenge yourself, push yourself as a photographer and see what you can do to improve yourself. So next week we have two different options. We have Winter Wonderland or we have long exposure. So I think we can bring up an image for this one. There we go. So this is what it is going to be next week. You are able to vote on this. To do that, all you have to do is head over to Instagram. I'm going to post this right now. Here we go. Rosie would usually do this, but she's not here. And all you have to do is go to Photos in Color on Instagram. You go to the story, which is the button at the top here, and there is a poll which is live right now. You can vote on whichever one you want to win next week, and I will be doing the results at the end of this live show. So, moving forward, let's start taking a look at your photos and let's start critiquing your bokeh photos. Now, first of all, let's talk about what is bokeh. Bokeh, or bokeh, as some people say. I believe bouquet is wrong. That's more like a bouquet of flowers. Bokeh is like a bouquet. Sounds like you're trying to do a posh version of bokeh. I've done some research and I believe it is bokeh, so we're going to stick with that today. Basically, a camera that takes a photograph, it goes through a lens and you have something called depth of field. So you're using your aperture and your distance from subject to change the depth of field. The shallower the depth of field means that what is in focus, what is sharp, is a small distance and the background is going to blur out. Now, when something blurs out, every single dot or pixel then has a blur to it. So the easiest way to explain it is if you were to have a light like this, it would be a single light source that would literally just be a round circle. But if you were to have it blurry, that round circle is then going to blur out. And that is what we call bokeh. Now, bokeh is not only when you blur out lights, and that's really important to understand. A lot of people think that bokeh is just when you have blurred out lights. It is anything which is out of focus has a level of bokeh. Now, some lenses give better bokeh than others, but we're going to get onto that in a moment. For now, we're going to jump in and start critiquing your photographs. So let's jump in and take a look over here. Great. So this was sent in by J Marab, which they've used their Instagram handle there, and I do ask, please add your Instagram handle to your photos so that if I post on my Instagram, I can send you some love and hopefully people will go and check out your work. So this is a perfect example of bokeh. If we look here in the background, we have where the sky was, we've got this beautiful bokeh effect where it's really blown it out, but we have a leaf which is wonderfully sharp in the foreground. Now you can see it was taken on a 50mm f1.8, so to do that, they've just got a nice focus here and it's blurred out the background. Now the sun will have been coming through the trees, but rather than us being able to see the definition of the shapes there, it's just blown it out. Wonderful example of bokeh. As a photograph, however, so two things with this week. I'm going to be talking about how good the bokeh is and talking about that, and also how good the photo is itself. So I do like this. I like that the light is actually coming through the leaf. I actually do like it that the leaf I don't know if it's been ripped. I think it looks like it's been nibbled at by a caterpillar. Now, I would like to see the caterpillar in the photo and maybe lighten this image up just a hair so I can actually see that leaf a little bit more. So I think it's a beautiful example of bokeh. So great work. Let's move forwards. Okay, so this here is another example of bokeh because we have a blur in the background. However, this time it's not quite as impressive, or it doesn't show it off quite as well. So as an example of bokeh, yes, we have an out of focus segment section to the image, but I don't think it's really on this week's theme. We've not challenged ourselves too much. As an image, I like it. I feel like the background, because it isn't that blurred out, we don't have that much focus on, I guess it's a statue in the foreground. So this is a great example of if there was more bokeh, if you could have blown the background out even more, this would have brought more focus to the subject in the foreground. But that was sent in by Adam Mikalski. So thank you very much for sending it in. Another 50mm f1.8. So great. Let's keep going forwards. Okay, so another tree with trees in the background. This was sent in by Adam Watson. Another 50mm at 1.8. So we can see a bit of a theme here. Our f-stop wants to be nice and low, so we've got a super wide aperture. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, why we do it. So I like the bokeh on this one. It is really nice and blurred in the background, but what we're lacking here, because we've used a 1.8 and we're nice and close, we're sharp really down here. You can see the veins of this leaf, which is beautiful, but straight behind it, we're already introducing a lot of blur, which is great. But the problem with this image specifically is that there's no real focal point to the image. I don't really know where to look, because equally we've got beautiful focus on this leaf up here and along the edge. So for me, I would want to see this entire leaf sharp and then behind it to be completely blown out, a little bit more like the first image that we looked at. But as an example of bokeh, really nice. Really, really nice. I think you've also got a little bit hot on the vibrance here. It's a little bit too punchy for me. Looks a little unnatural, especially when you look at the greens here. I'm going to show you what you can do if greens end up looking like this. Take the green slider in HSL and you can change the hue of the green and you can move it slightly to the yellows. I wouldn't go towards the blues to the right. I'd go slightly towards the yellows like so. And then you can actually pull back the saturation a hair. And straight away, the before and the after, it starts looking a little bit more natural. Let's move forwards. Okay, so this is another example that somebody's used the foreground to have the focus, the background to blur out. Now, I'm not actually seeing much bokeh in this one. I'm just seeing a blurred background. What I really want to see is to be able to see elements of the image blown out. You can see here there's one circle in this top left hand. That there is an example of good bokeh. The rest of it is basically just blurred out. And again, what you've kind of ended up with is the foreground is something not very interesting and the background, which is blurry, is more interesting. So composition wise, I think that there could have been a little bit more work done there. That was sent in by Aleo Bokeh. So thank you so much for sending it in. Also, what I want to say, guys, is this. I'm going to be starting to be a little bit harder on my critiquing. The reason, I've actually got two reasons for that. One is the idea for this show isn't just to praise you. The idea is for you guys to communicate with me and me actually give you some great feedback that you can improve on. And the second reason is I've actually had quite a lot of people have written to me saying, please be tougher on the critiquing of my photo. They really enjoyed that they were included in this, but they wanted me to be a lot tougher on them. So I'm going to start being a little bit tougher, and I think that's going to be better for you guys. Okay, let's jump back in here and let's keep going. Okay, great. So this here is a wonderful example of bokeh, and I'm going to talk about a few things with this image. Brenna Brown has sent this photo in. I love it as an example of bokeh. I think as an image, we don't have anything which is actually in focus, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think in this, it's just given the feeling of maybe it's a festive time it's a cityscape. I can see traffic lights, I can see cars there, I can see trees with lights on. Everything's there, and we don't need anything that's sharp, so that's great. And what I'm also going to talk about here is this just here. If we come and look in at one of these, what you can see here, this isn't perfectly round. It's actually a 5-sided hexagon. That's 6. Oh, could somebody tell me in the comments what is a 5-sided shape? Pentagon. Like the Pentagon in the USA. There you go. So this is a pentagon. Now the reason why it is a pentagon, that is because inside a lens, you have your iris or your aperture, and that is a number of blades that shrink it in or open it out. In fact, in a moment, we're going to go to something. And do we have any more lenses up here anywhere? Do I have the 85mm? Do you know where a lens is downstairs? Yeah, okay. Keep it on me for a moment and then run downstairs and get an 85mm. I'm just going to send Ray, who actually cuts all of this together, so you're going to stick with me for a moment. He's going to go grab me a lens because I want to show you exactly what this is. It's inside a lens. If you actually just take the lens, and you can do this with your own lenses, there's a little thing on the back that you can move, and you can extend and shrink your aperture yourself, and you can actually see it happening. And what that is a series of blades that cut in and make it smaller or larger. The reason this is 5 sides is because to make that smaller, there were 5 blades inside that. Now, if you were to have a different lens that had, say, 8 blades, and they're usually more expensive lenses, that's how you get the perfect circle. So this lens here might be a kit lens or something like this. Great. Come in and say hi. This is Ray.
Hey, how's it going?
He's the one that actually edits this show together. So I want to show you this. I don't know if you can see inside here, but on the back, just here, there is a little switch. And let's see if I can show you into the back of the lens. I don't know if you can actually, this may have been a terrible idea. But what you can do is, there you go, you can see it opening and closing. On the back of the lens here, I actually have a little tiny slider that I can move. And this lens here, I can see has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 aperture blades. So if I did this effect with this lens, it wouldn't be a pentagon, it would be a hexagon. That was a lot of explaining, but hopefully that will make sense to you guys. So if you're wanting to get this effect, then when you're purchasing a lens, have a look at how many aperture blades are inside the lens, and that's going to affect what the bokeh is like on your lens. So we're getting a little bit more technical here, but I hope this is helping. Let's do a few more images, and then I'm going to hop over and see if we have any. Do we have questions? Okay, if you want to ask me any questions at all, just drop them in. It doesn't have to be about bokeh. Anything to do with photography whatsoever, and we can jump in. Even if what lens you should buy, what cameras you should buy, questions about current cameras that are out there in the market, problems that you've had with your photography, the challenges that you have running a business, anything like that, just ask me, and I'll try and answer those for you. So Brenna Brown, I think you've done a really great job there. Let's keep moving. Okay, oh, I like this. So this here is from Chris Litchfield, or Christian Litchfield. Now, if I zoom in here, I'm gonna have a quick look at this image. Okay, because I'm interested to see how you've done this. We have some lines in here and a girl which is holding onto some fairy lights. Now let's talk through this image because I think it's fairly interesting. First of all, the bokeh here is almost a oval shape. It's not a perfect circle. You can see the same up here. We've got some interesting shapes in the bokeh, so I'd be interested to see how that was done. But But what we have is a few of the elements. What is sharp is here, which is the fairy lights, I guess you can call them, or twinkle lights, Christmas lights, I don't know. But she's holding those. And then where we have the bokeh is actually the reflection in the glasses, which I think has created a wonderfully deep photo. It's a lot of fun because the foreground is sharp, the background is not so sharp. My guess is that it was taken on another 1.8 or maybe even a 1.4 lens, maybe again probably a 50 millimeters. I think it's really interesting, but you can see we've got some streaks of light coming through here. Now, there's a number of ways that that could have been done. Probably not blurring because we only have it in those sections. Maybe dust on the lens. It could have been a dirty lens. Or it could have been some water on the lens or something. Either way, it's very interesting how you've managed to do that. And I think it's created like a 3-layered effect. Sharp in the foreground, reflection in the glasses, and then some streaks of blur across the image as well. So Christian, perfectly, you've taken this challenge and you've really gone for it and achieved the bokeh look that we're looking for. You've also added some complexity to it as well. I like the color grade. I like the blues that you brought out. So nice work, Chris. Ooh, David Almeida. I like it. So this is taken, my guess, inside a shopping mall or something, the entrance to some shops or a hotel. I like it. It's got the nice wintry feel. She's got a nice sweater on. I don't know if she's crying or if she's getting something out of her eye. I think I would have loved to have seen her looking at the camera or a little bit more posed. But saying that, I like how natural she feels. Now you've gone for a very yellow and a very warm feeling. That's because we've got the golds in the background. I'd be interested to see what happens if I was to change the white balance on this and just bring it back that little bit more into the more natural realm. This was the before and the after. You know what, I actually do like the warmth of the image. I think it was a little bit too much. But overall, a really beautiful photograph. I like the composition, a little bit on the headroom. A little bit too much on the headroom, I think. Bring that in a little bit to bring in the focus. But great work, it's on. It's completely what we're looking for with bokeh. Okay, so David, Collette, a bird. I think this is this it? Am I going to offend somebody if I say this is a pigeon? It's not a pigeon, is it? What is it?
Looks like a dove.
A dove? Ooh, is it a turtle dove? 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. Is it a partridge in a pear tree? No, partridges look more like a, what's the ones that go,
Like an owl.
A partridge is like an owl? No, what's the one that has the tails that go up behind? A pheasant. No, not a pheasant.
Peacock.
A peacock. I think it's more like a peacock, a partridge in a pear tree. But this isn't that. This is a dove. Maybe it's a turtle dove. I don't know. But either way, let's come back to the theme of this week. I like the bokeh in the background. We're not really getting any of those circles, so we're not getting a dynamic look at the bokeh, but we're getting a beautiful blur going on there. Birds always freak me out because they don't blink. Is that just me? You know, that like these birds, they don't blink, they just stare the whole time. It freaks me out. Just like next time you go look at a bird, wait till it blinks. You will be there for a very long time. They don't have eyelids, and that freaks me out just a little bit. Nevertheless, I like it. I think it's a little dark, and I've said this for a few weeks now, but there's been a vignette has been added to this, and the vignette has gone over the subject. What I would have done is kept the vignette on 1, 2, 3 corners, but this one down here, I would have allowed the bird to live, okay? As in, allowed it to pop out a little bit. If you're wondering how to add a vignette to only 3 corners, all you have to do is you come into the brush tool here. In fact, sorry, you come to the radial filter tool. I'm just going to do it on here. You draw a nice big circle. You pull down your exposure. So you can see I've added in a vignette and it's added to the whole thing. I've been very dramatic so you can see it. In fact, I'm going to make it even more obvious by bringing down the feathering, so it's going to be an actual circle. There we go. So if this was our vignette here, but I didn't want it to go down here, I'd go like so. I'd take the brush tool here, I'd click erase, okay, set it to 100% on the flow, and then basically I would just erase this corner, like so. And then if I was to bring back, come back to edit, and I go back to the feathering, and I nicely feather it here, make it a little bit larger. And let me make it a color so that you can see how this kind of works. What's the best color here? Can I actually give it a color? No, because it's too dark. You're not going to see it. Oh well. Either way, basically what's going to happen is what I've done there, if I come out of this, I've added another vignette to the outside. However, I haven't touched the bird. So that's how you do it. In fact, let me just take this and let me instead add massive amounts of exposure. So you can see I've added white to the outside, but not to this bottom corner just there. So that's how you would add a vignette to only 3 corners. Okay, last one, and then we're going to go to some other segments. We're going to talk about some stuff. Brendan Mooney. Oh, Brendan, you sent me this one on Facebook, and I said to you, please send it in for this. I love this photo. There's a few things that I would like to talk about, though. You've sent it in NEF format. So this is the raw image. It is completely unedited. I think it's a beautiful photo. It's a girl sitting on a white carpet. I think you've set up a sheet in the background, and we have the bokeh in the background of the fairy lights that she's holding on to. She's also in her pajamas, maybe. Either way, wonderfully fun photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick edit on this as it's a raw photo, because we can do that. What I would do, first of all, I'm just going to straighten the image, and then I'm going to bring in the crop so we get rid of those sheets in the background. That looks really, really nice. What I would then do is I'm going to use my exposure to go all the way up and all the way down to see what information I have. And I have all the information in her hair and forehead, which is great news. So I can now take my shadows and I can lift this up like so. In fact, I'm going to boost the exposure of everything. I'm going to pull my blacks down just a hair. I really like this. Let's lift the vibrance of this. Ooh, that looks really fun. Okay, so now let's actually set our white balance. Let's use this in the back here. It's going to make it a little bit blue. So I'm going to bring that back into it just a little. Look at the before and the after. Already we've really brought something into this. Now what I'm going to actually do here is add a little bokeh to the front of the image. Now to do that, I like to use the brush tool. I'm going to completely fake it here, so you might not like it, but I'm going to boost my exposure, and I'm going to make sure that, so if I just drop this in here, let's come back down here, let's bring down my feathering, because I want it to feather somewhat, but not completely, and all I can do here is I can add a couple of nice, I'm going to bring my feathering down even more, nice big chunks of bokeh to the front of this image, just to add a little bit of a bokeh effect as if it's, I don't know, falling down, whatever. Now, you don't need to worry if this is too bright or too dark. A little bit more like this. I don't want to go over a face. We can do one on a hair. I think that looks great. And then all I can do is just bring down my exposure just a little bit to my highlights, up to my shadows. So now if you look at the before and the after, what we've done is added that little bit of bokeh in the foreground, and I think that's helped bring that photograph to life. Brandon Mooney, I think you've done a great job, and what I like about this is the setup. This is a photograph that you decided to take as opposed to just happen to get a snapshot. Okay, so let's come back in here. Let's talk about 2 things quickly. I'm going to look at, see where we are with our votes. So far, we are currently at long exposure is winning for next week, which I'm surprised at. I thought people might go for Winter Wonderland as it's winter, but we've got all of January, so we can always come back to it. So we're at 41 to 59. Check out Instagram, Photos in Color, go to my story, and you can vote just there. The next thing is, I'm going to sit here and look at your photographs and critique them. So what I like to do is upload a photograph of mine that you guys can critique. I'm going to do this right now. This is of a odd photo of a penguin, which I think is pretty hilarious. It was actually taken here in Vegas. So I'm going to do this, and you can go on and give me all of your thoughts and opinions on my image. And if you've ever given me an opinion on my photographs, you'll see that I read them and I respond to people as well, because I think it's really important to do that. So let's go in here, and I'm just going to write critique. So Rosie would usually do this, but she's away today. She's still awesome. Critique my photo. That's not very good, is it? I'm supposed to hashtag these things. Anybody else good at hashtags? I'm not good at hashtagging. Okay, and share. So you can now go onto Photos in Color on Instagram and you can critique my photo. It will stay up there and I always will look at it and leave any and respond to any comments. Okay, so do we have any questions?
We sure do.
Okay, we have questions and we're going to go to Kevin this
week. Who's going to ask some questions?
Awesome. So from Valerian Pereira, how do you do a batch process in Lightroom to get the same white balance for all the images?
Great. Okay, so that's a really great question. There are two. I'm going to give you two answers to this. Number one, go over to my YouTube channel and search batch edit in Lightroom. I have an entire tutorial on how to do that. But I'm going to jump in and show you right now on my screen how you can do it. I'm going to do it to every single photograph that we have sent in today, then I'll just undo it. So let's take the photograph that I just did, and let's say that I want to add the exposure up way high so it's really obvious. I'm going to go all the way to 5 stops of exposure is what I'm going to add. Now, if I wanted to add this to every single photograph in my timeline, I can select all, and to do that I did Command A, and then down here you'll see it says sync. Now if I click on sync, it was going to bring up this option. All I have to do is select which things I want to sync across. So for example, if I go for uncheck all, at the bottom, always select process version, because there's different versions of Lightroom, so it will keep everything updated. Now what we do is we sync. Now it's only a one-time sync, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. So if I hit exposure only, now if I synchronize, you're going to see every single photograph in the timeline is now going to have a dramatically overexposed image. So let me just Command Z through all of that to undo it. Okay, so that's how we would sync that. Now let me do it one more time. So exactly the same thing. Synchronize, and now they've all gone like that. Now if I was to change this exposure to -5, so now it's gone really dark, what you'll see is it hasn't affected the other photographs. I have to re-sync everything. So now I'll hit sync, exposure, synchronize, and now every single image you can see as I go through now is going to be extremely dark. So that there is how you batch edit something. So let me I'm stepping back. Okay, good. And let me show you one more thing here, because this is a really good example. Let's say I'm going to take this image and I'm just going to stick on one of my presets. This is PIC presets. Let's go for, I'm just going to pick this one. That's vintage film number 13. Let me lift this up a little bit more. Great work. As you can see the before and the after. Beautiful. What I could actually do is sync certain things to certain images. So let's say I only wanted, so we've got this one, and then let's say to this bird here, or yep, to that bird, I just wanted to sync these bokeh effects on the front. I would select the two images, like so, you can see them at the bottom, and then when I hit sync, what I would now select is not exposure, but now I would do local adjustments, and I would do, was it brush or grad? It was the radial filter that I used. So I would select radial filter, okay? And now when I synchronize, it's not going to synchronize all of these other effects. All it's going to synchronize is the radial filter. Let's see if it actually, was it radial filter? It was brush, wasn't it? Sorry. Oh, yeah. It was brush. Sync. Let me do brush instead. Synchronize. And now when I come over to the bird, you'll see that we have the bokeh has appeared. It's just very lighter on this. So if I go to the brush, you'll see down here, and if I make this brighter, there you go. It's very obvious now, but it was just a lot lighter. So that's that, and I can sync that across all sorts of different things. But what you will see is all of these other edits that we had down here from my preset didn't appear on this image because it wasn't selected. That was a lot, I know, but I hope that makes sense to batch edit. I do go into more detail on the video that I have on YouTube, which is, if you just type in Lightroom batch edit, and then you'll see my video will pop up. I believe it's on a blue background with a girl standing there. That's the thumbnail for that. Do we have any more questions? Yes. Okay, let's go for one more.
The bokeh shape. I've seen photos where the bokeh looks like different shapes, like stars or triangles.
Great. How do we change the shape of bokeh? Well, that is actually something very simple because, and I'm going to use this as my explanation again. Remember what I said before. Inside this, we have these aperture blades, okay? And I can see that by looking through this lens. And if I look through here, it's very, very obvious. I would recommend you doing this with one of your lenses. You open it and there's a little slidey thing and you can see I have 6 aperture blades. So that gives me a shape with 6 sides. So if you wanted to change that, well, you'd have to go into your aperture blades and change the shape of those so that you get a different shape. However, that's not possible. You know, if you want a star, you're not going to carve into your aperture blades inside. That's not going to happen. Instead, what you do is this. You take a piece of black card and you cut the shape into it that you actually want your bokeh to be. And you attach that to the front of your lens. Now your lens is then going to see through this, but because now the shape that you made is actually smaller than your aperture blades, that technically adds a shape to your aperture blades. So then if you added a love heart, for example, what we would then get is a completely different shape. Now I think we're bringing up an image here of stars, is that correct? So I'm going to bring this up now. This is a great example that somebody's done where they've just got a piece of card, they've cut out a star, and they've put that onto the front of the lens, and they've created the star effect. So that there is how to create different shapes of bokeh. Now, what I also recommend when you do that is just a piece of card. You can actually use white card, is fine. Black card I feel like I get a little bit better results with. But you might have to, when you cut it out, go really small. Don't think that you're gonna have to have a star the size of this. Go really small in the middle, you know, very small, and it will work. But what you might have to do is then cut it out a little bit larger. There's a fair amount of trial and error that goes into that. Okay, so let's jump in and let's continue doing some reviews of your photo. Oh, in fact, before you come to my screen, I just want to quickly do this, see if I can find it. I believe I have it on this computer. No, I do not. Okay, don't worry about it. I'll do that for next week. So let's have a look at this. We have from Donald Reynolds. We have this photograph sent in. We have some bokeh in the background. It looks like a train model. They put it on the roof of their car. So they get bokeh in the background. I believe that's what's happened here. I like it. I like that you have definitely gone for the bokeh on there. You've really achieved the challenge in the background here. I would have gone for a shallower depth of field and maybe got a more interesting background to just a building back there. Same thing, you may want to light the train from the front a little bit as well. What I do like though is that you've gone for the challenge and you've really challenged yourself to see if you can achieve it. By taking part in these challenges, what it allows you to do is learn how to do all of these things. So great work. Let's keep going. Okay, so this is from Ed Vizenor. We have bokeh behind from the trees. So we've got some nice background blur. I like the composition of this as well. I think it's fairly interesting. with the Mary kind of going into the corner, nice and sharp on the model. I think you've done a good job there. I think that it's a little bit bland as an image and not particularly creative. And to me, the background is kind of more exciting than the foreground because there's more light and color to it. So adding a little light to the foreground there, I think would have improved the shot. Okay. Oh, I like this. I like the bokeh that you have in the trees here. We've got a beautiful model here who's posed nicely. I'm just looking for the sharpness here. I think, yeah, okay, so I'll focus on this. I believe that you've missed your focus. It's not really on the face, it's more on her t-shirt, just here in the creases that you can see. So I think you need to work on your focusing just here and ensuring that we always focus on the eyes and not on something else which is in the image. I also think that it's a little dark in these skin tones here, so I'd want to brighten things up. So you could lift your shadows, and already, just by boosting the shadows, we've completely changed this image. That being said, shooting with woodland in the background, and you've got this beautiful bokeh in the background, I think you've done a really good job. Maybe, and I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna bring down the saturation of the greens and the yellows a hair. So what that's done there is, I'm just gonna bring up her skin tones. So what we've done there before and after, you can see the difference. What I actually did was, I went into my HSL, Hue, Saturation, and Luminance. That's my favorite one to play around with actually. And what I've done is I've changed the color of the green slightly. Then I brought back the saturation of the yellows and greens. So I've muted the background a little bit. And then in the luminance, you can see here, of the yellows, I lifted the luminance up. So I made her come to life that little bit more. And I think personally that changes the image dramatically. And now it's got a far more bolder feel to this image. So as an image composition, Filippo Misio, welcome back. You're tuning in every week. I think you did well. Watch your focus though. Oh, a red robin. Look at this. This is from this time of year. What's the song about robins?
Rockin' Robin?
Rockin' Robin, how does that go? Rocky Robin, rock, no, what is it?
Rockin' the treetop.
There you go. Is that the Jackson 5? Jackson 5, there we go. Gary Gent, you just made us sing the Jackson 5. I'm not a singer, guys. So, bokeh, lovely bokeh on this. You've got your focus in there. And again, look, no eyelids. Doesn't blink ever. Ever. It's just constantly looking. How do these things sleep? Am I wrong? Does anybody have any information? Do birds blink? Or am I making this up? I like it. I love the shallow depth of field. So you've got right where their feet are, you can see this, and then you've got the lovely blur in each direction because you've shot along the side of the wall. It's not front on. Composition-wise, I think this is fantastic. The coloring on this, I think, is fantastic. I think you've got everything that you would want for a photograph of a robin. It's a fat little thing, isn't it? It has been eating its berries. So Gary Gent, honestly, I think you've absolutely nailed this image and it gets me excited. Look at that photo. Good work, Gary. I like it. Okay, one more photo. I'm going to come into a different section. We're going to bring up a video question. So Hassan Habib, just here. We have the bokeh in the background. Wonderful. We've got a teddy bear. Is it sitting on the street? Oh, it's a lonely teddy. I like it, okay? There's a few things that I would talk about here, though. First of all, bokeh, which was the challenge, nailed it. Got great bokeh. You've really blown it all out. Fantastic. Composition-wise, a little bit of work, I think. What I would have done, got lower down, shot it from the perspective of the bear, not from above the bear. And also you've cropped off its feet. You've cropped off where it's sitting. So I would have got lower down so that it's more from the perspective of the bear. And you would be able to get the nose a bit of the bear sharper that way. I also think that it's a little bit warm. I think there, it's a little bit more natural now. Before it was that little bit too warm for me. And let's see if we can just lift the exposure a hair. Oh, there you go. I think that's just brought that image to life that little bit more. So bokeh, great work. Composition needs some work. So we're going to come to our video question and bring that up. So guys, what we can do here is I'm giving you the chance to ask me questions, and you can do that in video format. Now, yes, we do it during the live show, but I'm thinking on my feet and answering the questions as good as I possibly can. Whereas with these, it's going to allow me to go and do some research and really come up with the best answer possible. Now, if you want to give me one of these questions, it's really simple. And in fact, let's talk about this for a minute. If you want to upload a photograph to each week's challenge, currently you've had to wait for me to post it on Instagram or Facebook or something. Now all you have to do is go photos in color /live. On there, you will see the current link for the next week's challenge that you can download, what the challenge is, and then you will also see the upload link where you can send your video questions. As I receive these, I'll be listening to them and pick the ones that I think are really pertinent to and what people want to know. And I'll do some research and give you the best answer I possibly can. So we have one sent in this week, so let's take a look at that.
Hey, what's up, Ed? This is Ryan from Berkeley, California, and I want to know if you can tell me the best way to achieve bokeh. Thanks.
Okay, great. I was drinking some coffee just then. You nearly got me. Whew. I need coffee. So if anybody actually knows me, if you cut me, I bleed coffee. That's how I live. And a lot of people write my videos, why are you so excited? Because I drink so much coffee. So what was the question?
What is bokeh and how do you achieve it?
How do you achieve, no, what is the best way to achieve bokeh? I'm so sorry. So, okay, there are some rules with bokeh and how to achieve it the best way. I'm going to use my coffee cup for this. I'm not sponsored by Starbucks, but I'm giving you some advertisement here. So bokeh is this. This is my camera. Thank you for moving the lens, but I'm going to put this in. This is my camera just here. This is my subject, and then this is my lights back here. Now, the closer these are together, the more in the focal plane that they are. So this is what's going to be in focus just here. This is going to be blurry here. If I was to put the background further away, okay, then that means that this is going to be more blurry. However, if I put this even closer, then relatively this to the background is now relatively even further away. So basically, get close to your subject and get your background further away, and that there is how you're going to achieve beautiful bokeh of your background. Now, another great way to get great bokeh is to have shadows and highlights. If everything's the same, you will achieve bokeh, but if you get something dark and have some light spots, you're going to achieve way better and more interesting bokeh. So that's another way of achieving great bokeh. Now, one other thing, if any of you out there are going, well, what if I can't be that close to the subject matter? Well, it doesn't matter. You can try a different lens. So for example, a 200mm lens, you can be further away, zoom all the way into 200, and now relatively, because you've zoomed in, the background is relatively a long way away. So that is, I mean, the 70-200 by Nikon, Canon, Sony, all of these companies, f2.8, you will achieve incredible bokeh if you zoom in at 200mm. It's incredible. Now, the other way for bokeh, how do you do it? F-stop. You want to get your f-stop as low as you possibly can, meaning those aperture blades I keep talking about are going to be wide open. So that's letting in loads of light. Why is that? It means that those circles in the background are going to be going through a wide aperture, meaning that it's going to blur out beautifully because of the increased shallow depth of field. So shoot with your lens as fast as you possibly can. Now, if you ever hear somebody, and I'm going to talk about this for a moment because people always ask me, somebody says like, ooh, that's a fast lens, or ooh, that's a slow lens. We're talking about the maximum aperture of a lens. A slow lens would be a maximum aperture of 5.6 because it means that you can't make that aperture very wide. Whereas a fast lens would be a 1.4 because that means you can aperture really wide, you can let loads of light in. I hope that answered your question, Ryan from, where was he from? California, USA. So if you want to send in one of your questions, all you have to do, it's very simple as well. You take your phone, it can be Apple, it can be Android, it can be whatever, Samsung, it doesn't really matter. All you do is you hold it in portrait mode. Hey Ed, this is blah 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 from blah blah. My question is, I've just bought a brand new Sony camera and I don't seem to be able to get blah blah results. Can you help me? Right? Save that, and then if you just go to photosincolor.com/live, there is a link that you click on there. If we can bring up, if you just type in /live, there you go. This is what the page looks like. There are two links at the top there, one to upload your photograph, one to upload your video. That's all you have to do. Then on your phone, or you can do it on your desktop, it takes you to a Dropbox link, you upload it, and we receive all of those things. So please send me in your videos because I want to get you guys more involved. Now, if you don't speak perfect English, don't worry. Ask me in as good at English as you can. I'm very good at understanding these things. Okay, here we go. Let's jump back in because we've got loads of photographs this week and we're running out of time and I've got to get through all of these. I was very slow today. Let's run through all of these here. Let's have a quick look here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this, I absolutely love the bokeh of this. We've got the wonderful blown out background here, which I absolutely love. The bokeh is wonderful, nice shallow depth of field. Here we're on a f1.2. Wow. 85mm, beautiful portrait lens. You've absolutely nailed the focus just here, right on those eyes, to the point that the hair in front of the eyes is already out of focus. This is a great photograph from Ivan Semenov. Wonderful. And the bokeh in the background, you nailed it. That is what I'm talking about. Great photo. I think I would like to see a little bit more of the top of the head, but that's about it. Nice work. Here we go. Ooh, look at this. So this is from Jai Singhania. Wonderful photograph. We've got the butterfly in the foreground. Now this, okay, so this is a great example. This is shot at 300mm, okay, meaning they've stood, I just explained this a moment ago with the 200mm. This is even more. Then they've stood way back and they've zoomed all the way in, and that there is how they've managed to get it perfectly in focus, yet the background completely out of focus. And now I'm just focusing right on the butterfly. And the sharpness, the focus on this, you have nailed it. This is a beautiful photograph. The bokeh, look at the circles in the background. And also the more that it blurs out, the less you can see those aperture rings. It creates more of a perfect circle. I think this is, I mean, I'm not really into butterfly photography, if that's a thing, but this is just fantastic. Nailed it. Love it. Here we go. What is going on here? Is this a droplet of water?
It's like honey.
Honey? Honey in a bag? This is a bag of water? Kev, what is it?
It looks like a leaf.
A leaf?
Probably like water from a leaf or something.
Water, so we're thinking it's water from a leaf. Okay, so interestingly, if the person looking at it can't tell what it is, then you probably needed to show more of what's happening. So zoom out, okay, wider angle lens so that we can actually see what's going on here. But I do like, you've got some bokeh in the background. I just think that you needed to zoom out more to show us what's going on. Okay. Oh, nice. Look at this product photography, but this was taken in a store, it looks like. We've got beautiful, nice and sharp here. Personally, I would have tried to not have the sharpness here, but have the sharpness on the face of the watch, just to be more specific there. But you've got beautiful bokeh in the foreground, beautiful bokeh in the background. So what you've done there is you've not only got a two-leveled photo where it's like the subject and the background's blurry, but you've also managed to blur out the front, which I think is always a massive bonus. I think you've done a wonderful job. So great work, Jean Michael. Is that how you say your name? I don't know. I like it, and you probably shot it through glass as well, which is maybe how you've got this reflection on the front. But I think it's really nice. I just wanted to have the watch face in focus. That's what you missed there. Okay, so John Doe, definitely this week's challenge was bokeh. You've got bokeh. We've got lots of bokeh going on here. I just think the subject matter is a little bland, focusing on a single Christmas light or fairy light. So it's definitely is bokeh, but I think that the subject matter can be a lot more interesting. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. So I'm going to say I am 99.9% sure that this sun has been added in post-production. However, only highlighted. It was there because you can see it banding through the building, but I think you've added something a little, but I don't mind that. I think that's a wonderful job either way. We've got bokeh again in the background, bokeh in the foreground. We know exactly where to look. The sun is directing our eyes to here. Composition-wise, I think you've nailed it. I think that the edit, I think you've nailed on this. I love the coloring, the pinks. It's all in the right zone. It's all very feely. Did I say it's all very feely? I don't even know what that means. Nice photo. Let's keep on going. Labros Laritsis. Okay, so you've got some bokeh in the background, but I feel like this lamp, we need to see that it's too low in the frame, and I don't think it's a particularly interesting subject matter. It's a great demonstration of shallow depth of field, but I don't think the subject matter is really telling me anything, taking me anywhere, or adding any context to what's going on. But a great example of using shallow depth of field. Here we go. Ooh, look at this one, Helen Jenkins. This is perfectly what we were talking about last week when we talked about bokeh. We've got the fairy lights in the background. We've got the subject, which is pin sharp in the front. This is a portrait taken on a 50mm lens, which is exactly, which this for a child portrait has been perfect. I think you've nailed the framing. I love it that he's wearing the green. I really do like it. I think it's a really nice photo indeed. I would be tempted to do something like, let's see if we can warm it up slightly like this, make it a little bit more filmic or something like this. Oh, I like this. See, this was the original. We've just kind of warmed it all up. We've taken down the shadows a little bit and added a little bit of an effect. But that's great. And we can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is an 8 blades there on the bokeh, which is why we've got this almost perfect circle. Beautiful work. I think you've done a very good job. And this is a great example of not shooting wide open. If she'd have shot at probably f1.8, if it was a 1.8, maybe 1.4, we risk getting too much out of focus. So she's gone up to 3.2 and nailed it. So great work. Photograph of somebody taking a photograph. Yes, we have bokeh in the background. I just don't think that it's completely, it doesn't have that much interest, to tell you the truth. I want to know what she's actually taking the photo of, as opposed to the photographer taking the photo. But we do have some bokeh and blur on there. So nice work. But again, I just don't think it's that interesting as an image. I want to see more. Oh, look at this. This is wintry. Are these cotton? Is that what this is? No, these are seeds coming out of something. I don't know what type of plant that is. Is that a cotton plant? I think it might be. Either way, I think that's a beautiful photograph. I think we're just missing some sharpness. Everything's a little bit blurry. You've shot wide open at f1.4. I would have gone f2.2 maybe, just that we could have got all of this in focus and got the background nice and blurry. Great way to show off bokeh though, and it's nice and blurry. So I like the composition. I just think that you should have not shot wide open, because you've ended up just blurring out the entire image in a way. There's no real focus point there. Kevin, a minute, do we have any more questions?
We do.
Okay, give me a second. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to whip through some more of these though. Michelangelo, whoa, you're a famous painter. but you can also take great pictures of eagles. This is an eagle. I was going to say owl at first, but a hawk. We're going to go for a hawk. I love it. I love the blur, the background blur, the bokeh that we've got going on back here. I think it's a nicely composed. It's almost like a portrait of a bird, which is nice. I feel like it's a little contrasty. I don't know if we can sort that out, lightening it up just a little bit. I'd go more like this. I just wanted to lighten it up just a little bit. Maybe again with those greens, they've ended up in a bit of a luminous color here. So I don't know how we can, it's in the aquas. There you go, a little bit more to the greens. That's where I'd go there. Nice photo though. And we've got the focus right on the eyes. Again, do they blink? Has anybody said if birds blink? I don't know. They freak. They do. That's what people have said. Did you look it up?
I looked it up. Some birds.
Some birds blink, some birds don't. Birds that don't blink freak me out. Nitin Jain, welcome back. You come in every week. Great to have you back. So I like the focus on one of the dog's faces here. We've got some blur in the background, but I think the composition's a little random. We've got a line at the front here of dirt with the dog sleeping on it and a random bush in the background that's well lit, and then the rest of it's not very well lit. I think we could have twisted the composition so the background was all this darker color and just had the bush maybe on one side. That's what I would have probably have done there. But I like the shallow depth of field. You've shot at 175mm. I'd have walked backwards and then zoomed in further. You'd have got a far more blur in the background. Okay, we've got some bokeh in the trees up here. We're sharp on the eyelashes, so that's nice. But I think that we don't want this cabin in the background. This gets a little weird for me, and I think there's too much tree. There's more tree than there is subject. So almost the subject becomes a big white tree, which is a little weird, with that wall. It's a tree. It's a tree wall. A troll. Okay, one more. Oh, look at this. Okay, so this is a fun photo from Oliver Haydel. I like the idea that you've taken a photograph that is a Fujifilm Instax. That's the small Instax that you've taken. You've got a great composition from that as well. And then you've used that to take another photograph to add bokeh to your image. And it means that you've added drama to the image. So you've ended up with two great photographs. One is an Instax and one digital. I think this is a great photograph. It's been done many times. But that doesn't mean that you can't keep doing it and create something which is still dramatic and looks really nice. I think you've done a good job. Congratulations. Oh, look at that. Train line. This is where the trains cross over or whatever trains do. I like the black and white. I think it's a little gray for me. So I'd boost the contrast and then lift the exposure. So before and after. That's what I'd want to see. Let the whites be white and the blacks be black. If you've tuned in before, you know that that's my opinions on black and white. Like really just make it happen. Shallow depth of field, bokeh in the background. I really like this as a photo. It's like a desktop background. I just don't think that I think there is enough going on actually. I think that there is, that cross in the front, I think that is where the drama lies. So I think you've done a good job there. So nice work from, I don't know what your name is, but your Instagram is RB4Pics Instabrook #tram. No. Oh, it's taken at Innsbruck. It's a tram line, and your Instagram is RB4Pics, and that's what it is. Nice work. Oh, question. Let's go.
All right, we have a question from Kelly Chick. Recently, I put a DX lens on my FX camera. The focus seemed much softer. It did crop, but will DX lens also affect the focus of an image?
Okay, so you put a DX on a full frame. Now let's talk about what that is. In cameras, you have DXs, which is full frame, crop sensor in Nikon talk, but Canon and Sony, they all have their own versions. So let's just talk about crop sensor versus full frame. If this is a full frame sensor, this is 35mm across here. A crop sensor will be, say, only this big, it's smaller. So when you take your, I'm gonna actually do a video on this. I think it's gonna be important, so look out for that. Basically what you're doing is a lens, you project the image onto the sensor. So if the sensor is bigger, when you put it on a crop sensor, okay, you're gonna only be taking the middle section of say a 50mm if it's a full frame lens, but then if you do it on a full frame with a crop sensor lens, you're gonna end up with big vignetting. Now, the question was, although you've got the vignetting or you've cropped it in, you're getting a lot softer from your DX lens on a full frame. This is the reason. Probably what you've done is you've got an upgraded sensor. That's what you're looking at. So what you're getting is a far higher resolution from your camera, even the DX section. So now everything is way more visible. So for example, I shoot on a 47 megapixel D850 when I do photography. And if I put a lens on that, I can zoom in and I can see the focus to like a millimeter. I can get an eyelash in focus and an eyeball out of focus. Whereas if I was to do that on my old D300S, no, that was also full frame, whatever my D300S was crop sensor, I wouldn't be able to do that because the resolution just wasn't there. So it's not that the lens is less sharp, it's just as sharp. Now, it's just more obvious that it's not as sharp as it ever was. I hope that makes sense. Any more questions?
Yes, we have one from Mooney. When do you recommend enabling or not enabling lens correction in Lightroom?
Okay, enabling or not enabling lens correction, that is your personal way of shooting and how you feel. I'm not a big lens correction, I don't say do it every single time, because sometimes I like the feeling of a lens. If I shoot on my 14 to 24 millimeter, my Nikon, it still, although it's an amazing lens that has only little distortion, I kind of like that distortion. When you take it out, sometimes it loses it for me, especially when I shoot landscapes with it. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule, always do it. But if you wanted to give yourself a rule, I would do it. But let me say this, when you first get into Lightroom, if you're gonna do lens corrections, do it first. Because it changes the feeling of a photograph and it changes how all the effects are around the outside with your vignetting and all of those things. So it might edit how you actually do your post-production. So if you're gonna do it first. And also one final thing on that, if you're gonna use the upright tool or anything like that in Lightroom, always use lens corrections first, not afterwards, because it can kind of get a little skewy that way, because to use the upright, it analyzes the image. So then if you add lens corrections later, basically that analysis was now pointless. Anyway, hope that makes sense. Let's keep going. Loads of photographs dropped in this week. Renita Malik, I like this photograph. I just don't think the subject's that interesting. Okay, it's a spiky bush and we've got the mountains in the background. I think that I'd have reversed it and I'd have had bokeh in the foreground with the blur and had the mountains in focus, to be honest with you. Remember, bokeh doesn't always have to be in the background. It can be in the foreground. So yeah, but I like that you've managed to get the whole stick in focus and then so it gives it some real definition. So that was good work there. Oh, look at this one. This is from Ramon Pacheco. So the bokeh here, I think is coming from a reflection in the glass, and this was taken through some glass of somebody, I guess, getting a tattoo. I think this is a great photo. I really like it. I think it's interesting. I think these are traffic lights from the outside street. I think that it's pretty dynamic as a photo. So great work. I even like it that it's not 100% level. If I level it, I think we actually lose something on this image. I preferred it a little off level like this. So really nice work. Good job. Oh, look at that little dog. Sang Lee. That is a nice photo here. Look at this dog. Dog's so cute. I think you've done a great job. We've got some lights in the background. These are fairy lights or maybe just lights in the house. Great composition. It's like a headshot. It's like a child's headshot of a dog. So I think you've done a really nice job. And I like the bokeh on this. You've nailed it. It's 50mm f1.8. You can see here, we've used a shallow depth of field. We're nice and close to the subject and the background is a long way away. We've got it nice and blurred. So great work. This, I have no idea what it is. This is a stand reflecting through a glass table. I don't know what this is. But I love the bokeh, because the bokeh's got bigger as it's also reflected through the table. So great work on the bokeh. It's perfectly sharp. I just literally haven't, does anybody know what this is? It's a bit weird. Sebastian Lubinsky, thank you for tuning in. Oh, are these, is one? Projector? Because you can see the reflection down here of, I don't know what that is.
Water faucet?
Water? Oh, is it a water faucet? Oh, is it a tap? Oh, it is. But it disappears to nowhere. I have no idea what that is. Sebastian, can you tell me what that is? It's cool. And I like the bokeh. But because it's so square and neutral, I'd have just made it bang on in the middle. Go like this. Here we go. Oh, that child looks like she's in shock with something. But I like here, you got the bokeh with the Christmas tree in the background. It's kind of fun here with the, what's that, a snowman? I want to be a snowman. Is that the song? From, it is, I want to be a snowman, from Olaf. That's from Frozen. I've got nieces, that's how I know that, honestly, truly. But nice photograph. I think this is a nice composition. I'm Chad, I just think she needs to look at the camera. Here we go. Oh, look at this. Let's get it on. So we've got some flies having a good time. I think this is allowed on YouTube, right? I don't think that this is of sexual nature. I don't know. But it looks like it's raining, which is where we have the bokeh in the background. We've got some flies doing their thing. Congratulations for getting it, for like as in waiting that long and managing to get it perfectly in focus. A little odd. But if that's what you're into, I guess. Nice work and great work on the bokeh. Super blurry, you got the rain that's giving it definition. So nice work. Oh, look at this. Taj Fantankwantanski. Oh, that was probably offensive, but I didn't mean it to be. I just couldn't read your name. We're having fun in here today. So bokeh, beautiful there. I love it. I like the super sharp focus on the eyes. I think you've done a little skin retouching to make her soft. I think you've gone a little too far with that. I wouldn't do that. But I think the focus and everything is really nice. Just lots of color, which is really nice. Okay, let's check on the vote. We're running over a little bit today because we had to restart the show. So give me another 5 minutes because I want to get some more photographs because we've had loads today. The vote, right here, we are currently at, oh, I missed it. 53% long exposure, 47% Winter Wonderland. We've got 5 more minutes to go. Get on and vote for what you want to have next week. Instagram photos in color in the story. Let's keep going here. I want to get to lots of photos. Oh, what a beautiful photograph. And I love the edit on this. Beautiful. I think the sharpness is on the hand, not on the eyes. So I think you need to just make sure you nail that focus. I love the blur in the background. I love the color of the trees. I think the composition and everything of this is perfect. And I love the bokeh. You've just got to get it in focus. Focus is important. Oh, okay. So we've got the blur in the background, holding some fairy lights. This is one of those classic shots. I think it's too dark. I think I want to lighten this up and I think it's too warm. Something more like this. I just think there's just a lot of, I'm going to look at this in black and white. So I think black and white changes this image. I think it works better in black and white because when we're in color, I think there's just too much color and I don't know where to look. The black and white, we've now brought in the focus to the model just here. So I would do something more like that. But overall, nice work. I just think, again, I don't know if we're completely in focus. Maybe shoot on a tripod for something like this if it was too dark for you, because you're shooting at 1/60th of a second. Get that above 1/300th of a second, shoot handheld. Okay. Oh, we've got lots of animals getting it on this week. It is, I mean, it's winter, so I guess we're all cuddling up and doing this stuff, but whoa, there it is. I like the bokeh in the background. Again, you've waited for a long time to get this shot, so that's really great work. 31 millimeters is what you're at f 5.6. How have you got it that blurry? I don't know. That's kind of amazing. At 31 millimeters at f5.6, but either way, beautiful moves to crop sensor or something. Great work though. This here, oh, this is dark. This is a hand with some of those LED lights popping out there. Great bokeh, great feeling. I really like it as an image. I think it's good work. I think it's interesting, but not interesting enough for me. And the focus is a little skewed. Not enough going on in the image. I'm gonna get through a few more, guys. I'm just gonna flick through some so I can comment on them. Oh, so here we go. Bokeh foreground, bokeh background. So we've got here another reflection in the glasses, which I like. And we've got some beautiful bokeh in the foreground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another hexagon. So that's 5 blades in your aperture blades. Composition-wise, I think it's really nice and interesting. I don't know if I want to see where she's sitting though. I think for this kind of an image, we might just want to cut off the floor more like this. But I think this is a nice photo. Keep going. Whoa, look at that, George Ernst. Whoa, okay, so you have got the lighting bang on with this. Like you nailed that, and I love the feeling. You're in a forest or a rainforest or a jungle. You managed to get the background blown out, the foreground sharp. This is a wonderful example of landscape, I guess, subject photography. This is beautiful. Beautiful photography there. Congratulations. I like that a lot. So I've got nothing to say. I love it. I love it. Go through, more of a snapshot. Let's keep going through here. Oh, I like the bokeh in the background here. I like the glasses. I love it that it's in black and white. I think we should have got the bottom of the beer taps in here. But overall, I think it's got some drama to it. I think I just want to lighten it up a little bit there. But still is like a restaurant shot. That's great. Let's keep going. This is a little dark. We've got the bokeh in the background. Maybe it's candles and stuff. But nice. It's obviously a Scotch whiskey. Maybe you've had a go at doing an ad. I think it's too dark on the side. It's a little too moody for me. But let's keep going. Keep on going. Oh, look at this. Blur foreground, blur background. Nice sharp subject matter there. It's contextual. It's interesting. Great street photography. Ankur Khurana. Nice work. Here we go. This is what I'm going to say. That's brandy. That's a brandy glass, isn't it? Cognac. So cognac maybe. Beautiful bokeh. I love this. Nice shallow depth of field. A little dark again, I think. We just want to lift it up. And I think you just added a little bit too much contrast to that image. There we go, just to pull it back a hair. Nice work though on that. I'm going to come through because I think in here, oh, look at that. Product photography. Is this a necklace and things? You've done a beautiful job at having some great bokeh in the background. What a wonderful example of using bokeh in product photography to add in some focus. I maybe would have avoided the bokeh going through the main part of the crystal there. But either way, nice work. I'm just going to come back to the library because I want to, in the last moments here, I think there was a photograph that was sent in here that had, I want to go through and find it. It had some other shapes in it. I don't know if it ended up coming in, but there was one that somebody sent in that had hearts in it. I don't know where it is. Oh, look at this for a photo. London Johnson, I like this a lot. Beautiful. Bokeh in the foreground, blur in the background, playing in the Christmas trees. Really great work. I'm going to flick through some of the last ones here and find something. Oh, I like this one. Foreground and background blur. Really got the highlights from the sun on the side. Beautiful circles for bokeh. You guys have really nailed bokeh this week. You got it. Oh, again here, look at that. Rene Lucha. Beautiful example of using bokeh for a leading line inside what looks like a wedding photo. Beautiful photos. There's just a big bit of bokeh. Portrait with bokeh in the background. Oh, I like this bit at the end where I just flick through and look at a load of photographs. Oh, look at this. That's a puffin. That's a beautiful photograph of a puffin taking off or landing with the bokeh, which is actually the sunlight reflecting off water, most definitely. So congratulations on capturing that. I may have this bit down here. I think what I would have done in here, I would have actually healed this out. So I'd have just wiped that over here, and it's going to select somewhere else. I'd have gone something like that, just to kind of get rid of it. So now it's completely flying over the ocean. Great work. Okay, so that is it for the live show this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, next week, oh, what is it? Whoa. We haven't done the vote yet. It was a very close one this week, and the final vote is long exposure has won this week. 57% long exposure, 43% Winter Wonderland. We'll be going live next week, 11 a.m. on time, like this week. Vegas time. And to upload that, there will be, you just have to go to Photos in Color /live. And from there, there will be the upload link to next week. Give us to the end of today to get that live, but you can always be submitting your video questions so that we can actually get you on the screen and have you asking your questions. Thank you so much for watching this week. You guys really did a great job. Loads of submissions. So let's get in more submissions and challenge yourself. It is long exposure next week. Let me explain what long exposure is. Shutter speed, long exposure, shutter speed, meaning the shutter is open for a long time and we're using that to change our image. So for example, a very simple example, a car driving down the street, you have your camera on a tripod. Fast shutter speed just captures the car. Long shutter speed catches the light of the car. So have a go at that. Also, a cool way if you wanted to really challenge yourself was to do a double exposure or doing a exposure with a flash. So long exposure, have something moving, pop the flash to then freeze it. That's going to be very exciting to do. Challenge yourself, guys. Really go for long exposure. See what you can come up with. Give me your comments on my photograph from this week on Instagram. And that's about it. Ray, thank you so much for mixing this week. You did a great job. Kev, you're not as beautiful as Rosie, but you did a great job at asking me the questions. You're going to be in again next week because Rosie, again, isn't going to be here. We all miss Rosie. Send us some love in the comments. And also remember, once this live show is down, you can always go on and still comment on this video itself and like it because it does help my channel. Thank you so much for watching. This was Ed Gregory for photosincolor.com. Here we go.